When I arrived, I was just incredibly overwhelmed in both, I guess, positive and slightly sort of more scared ways, because it is the beginning of a new chapter. A lot of people I hadn't met before, but it was all very exciting because it seemed like we were all here for some common purpose, some common idea about what we wanted to do with our life. You don't just learn with them in the classroom, but it goes beyond that. And I think I was really excited to have this experience of both having a very sort of sound and good academic program that focuses on these difficult issues, but at the same time just a lot of interested students that are excited to share their culture, their ideas about the world, their experiences, and live together with you.
LUC is the Leiden University College situated in the legal capital of the world, namely The Hague. It is a full-fledged part of Leiden University. It was established in 2010, and it is a liberal arts and science college that addresses the global challenges of the world.
What everybody here has in common is a certain type of curiosity, I guess, and an excitement and an interest in the things that happen around them, and this, I guess, to some extent, desire to get involved. And that turns out in very different ways, right? We have people here that study arts, we have some people here that study more sort of legal courses, some people are really interested in development work, but everybody, I think, here finds their little niche, but it all comes together in this, I think in this really sort of determined spirit to do something and to take on more knowledge, to make whatever is out there a little better, and to sort of contribute.
I hope to give them something of my experience, and then of my practical experience. I don't know much about theory, but I have seen world leaders operate. I've seen the political situations develop, and I have been part of the play. And I always have very lively discussions with them, because I think I can ask, let's say, the challenging questions from the political practice.
With this hand, I have shaken many hands of dictators, of autocrats, of human rights abusers. The hands were dripping with blood. Still, I shook the hand. Still, I shook the hand. Would you shake the hand of Bashar al-Assad in Damascus?
I always tell them, I'm not standing in front of you to teach you what to think, but to teach you how to think. And I think that's one of the basic principles of the Leiden University College The Hague. How to think, how to weigh the arguments, how to discuss the pros and the cons of a certain conflict or a certain question.
Teachers at LUC are nerds for their subjects, and nerds in a good way. I think they tend to be not just highly professional and knowledgeable in their fields, but also very excited about giving good classes. And they're interested in what you do. They're interested in your learning process. They recognize you as who you are, where you come from, and want to just, I think, push you in your learning process. You get very close to people around you that you see in classes, but that you then get to know very differently on the corridor, in their pajamas. So I think it's a very safe space to learn, to explore, to fail, and to get up again, because you have this great network of people around you.
LUC gives students a compass that they can use for the rest of their life, both in their career and their professional life, but also in their social life, because LUC is a residential college where curricular and co-curricular activities come together. Liberal arts and sciences at LUC is a concept. It is not a straightforward program. It combines a broad range of disciplines in a very rigorous way and gives students at the same time the opportunity to make their own choices based on their interests and their competences and skills.
I was drawn to literally nearly all classes. I had a really hard time choosing, and I think this is also something that made me come here, because you have the ability to take such a diverse range of courses. So I was drawn to classes on journalism with Arnoud, so it's some of the classes that at LUC are taught by practitioners, so people that used to work in the field. So journalism sounded incredible because the teacher there has such an amazing experience.
Of course they have to have the theory, and they have that also from me to a degree, but also from other courses. And then to say, okay, how does the theory relate to the realities of war? The reality of the causes of war, the way wars are fought, and when decisions are taken and therefore actions are taken, those have consequences. What actually happens in the field? What then can be the result also politically speaking? That practical reality is something that the students, I think, have to have as well, next to all the theory. And the two, when they mesh, means that they get a much deeper insight as to what is actually happening in the world.
Every night in Sarajevo, you think it can't get worse, but it does, making a mockery of the attempts of mediators to bring peace to the city, which is enfolded in war.
It was kind of strange. When the Yugoslav tribunal began, the war in Bosnia was still going on, and I actually was sent to The Hague to cover the opening of the tribunal and the first trial of a very minor man called Duško Tadić. And right at the beginning, when one spoke to prosecutors or investigators at the tribunal, they didn't want to have anything to do with journalists. We were not trustworthy. Many people think that way. But we had actually been there. We had been one of the few outside observers to see what was actually happening. And it was only in 2001 that one prosecutor came to me about one case and could I maybe help him. And then others discovered that I had met Mr. Milosevic, I'd done the first interview with Mr. Milosevic, that I knew Radovan Karadzic, that I had interviewed Ratko Mladic, that I'd spent a lot of the war in Sarajevo, but also in some of the besieged enclaves. And then the procedure started that more prosecutors started using me, including, of course, Dan Saxon.
Why did you believe that Sarajevo was being obliterated?
What we were witnessing, and this was for hours, and this is only a very small part of what was filmed. And so we met there, we had several days of meetings, I had to sit in court, he asked me the questions, I tried his best to answer them, and then suddenly, several years later, you're teaching in the same institution, and you are teaching students about the same things, but from different viewpoints. And that should increase their understanding, deepen their understanding of the whole procedure of international criminal law and everything that led to it.
I had to always plan each hearing that I was involved in. I had to plan each court appearance, each witness testimony, so as to be able to explain what were often very complex subjects and very complex events in a way that would be simple and easy for the judges and for the public who would be watching to understand. And so all of that experience, I think, serves me well as a teacher. And when I prepare for my lectures and my classes here at LUC, oftentimes I prepare in a very similar way. I ask myself, okay, I've got a complex idea, a complicated topic. How am I going to explain this or demonstrate this clearly enough so that my students will be able to grasp the concept and be able to apply it?
Students come to LUC because they want to change the world. They want to make a difference in the world. And in the classroom, they're reading about global challenges and they're interested in global governance and big processes. But when they step out of the classroom, they do a number of things. One, they can go to many of these international organizations that they've learned about here at LUC, but they also discover The Hague as a city, as a local community in its own right. And so between the community project course and the volunteering, students get to experience how global challenges manifest themselves right here locally. Community engagement at LUC takes three forms. We have a service learning program where students are studying about the philosophy and history of multicultural education in The Hague while working as volunteers in local high schools. But students are also organizing volunteer projects on their own. So they will go and help a family move from an emergency shelter into private housing, or they'll play bingo with senior citizens in the neighborhood. And then the third component is engaged internships. Students will take on service-oriented internships and develop skills that connects to what they're doing in class.
We are striving for excellence. Excellence in the education that we provide, in the facilities that we provide, but excellence also in learning and the acquisition of knowledge.
I think it's essential for our students not to only have classroom exposure, but also to go out and experience how it is to do science in a real field scenario. So I take them out both for teaching and for research. They collect samples, they analyze the data, and I think it's essential for them to realize that this is not just a classroom exercise, but these things happen in real life. In this case, we're going to go to look for microplastics, very tiny pieces of plastic, to determine what the loads are on the beach. We take the students out to actually study one of those real emerging issues that more and more scientists across the world are focusing on. And what I find most amazing is the amount of interaction you have with the students. It's often, the trick is not to get them to talk, but to stop them from the discussion, because there's also some content we want to cover. So that interaction with the student, their passion, I just love it.
I've met some of the funniest and most inspiring, exciting and engaged students at LUC that really became some of my best friends that I think I will see again for sure in the future at some point, at some place. It is, I think, because we're going through such an intense academic program, but also I think emotional time, because it's kind of this new chapter of your life. You don't really know where you're headed after this place, and you start to be you start to question so many things around you suddenly with all this new input that you're getting, that it's really good to have some people by your side that go through some of the same issues and troubles, and maybe it's a bit of sort of post-teenage drama that's involved. But the people you meet here and that become your friends, I think, are definitely going to stay close for a long time.